Reaction in Africa to the death of al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden has been mostly positive. Kenya's president commended the United States for tracking him down and killing him. Officials in Uganda and Morocco welcomed his death, saying his terror group destabilized international relations.
VOA's Purnell Murdock has more on the man blamed for orchestrating the 1998 bombings that killed 224 people in Kenya and Tanzania.
Blamed for terrorist atrocities on at least 3 continents, Osama bin Laden was the target of perhaps the largest U.S. manhunt in history. Following the catastrophic attacks on New York and Washington on September 11, 2001, President Bush publicly vowed to find the man believed to be the mastermind, Osama bin Laden.
They used to put out there in the Old West a wanted poster. It said, "Wanted, dead or alive." All I want, America wants him brought to justice.
But bin Laden's image as the world's most wanted terrorist stands in sharp contrast to his peaceful and comfortable upbringing. Born March 10, 1957, he was one of more than 50 children of a wealthy Saudi construction magnate who died when Osama bin Laden was a teenager. Raised in the opulence of Saudi Arabia's upper class, rubbing shoulders with members of the ruling royal family, bin Laden went on to pursue an engineering degree and seemed headed for work in the family business. But his life forever changed when, in 1979, the former Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Bin Laden, like many Muslims, left home to join the fight against the Soviets, although at first his participation amounted only to logistical support for new recruits to the Afghan Mujahideen Islamist fighters, the same ones supported by the United States. But in the mid-1980s, bin Laden decided to use his share of his family's wealth to form his own militia force, which later became known as al-Qaeda, Arabic for the base. After the Soviets withdrew, bin Laden returned home, but kept ties with former veterans from the Afghan War and maintained an interest in other Muslim causes. Another major turning point in life came in 1990, when Iraq invaded the oil-rich Persian Gulf state of Kuwait, prompting Saudi Arabia to invite U.S. troops to deploy within its territory. Bin Laden saw the arrival of non-Muslims on what he considered Holy Land as an affront to Islam. He protested strongly against the move, resulting in his expulsion from Saudi Arabia in 1991. Bin Laden found refuge in Sudan, where he is said to have orchestrated attacks on the U.S. military in Somalia and Saudi Arabia. Under U.S. pressure, the Sudanese expelled him in 1996, and he returned once more to Afghanistan. But even as he involved himself once again in Afghan politics, bin Laden stayed involved in his global struggle against the United States. He allegedly masterminded the 1998 bombing of American embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. Stopping bin Laden became the top priority for the United States following the New York and Washington attacks in 2001, which claimed more than 3,000 lives. When the Taliban refused to surrender the al-Qaeda leader to U.S. authorities, the United States went to war, ousting the Taliban from Afghanistan in December 2001 and sending Osama bin Laden into hiding. In his years at large, bin Laden released a series of audio tapes condemning the United States, causing great frustration for Washington, a frustration that has now ended. Purnell Murdock, VOA News, Washington.